We will be live in a bit. Good morning. It's a beautiful Monday. Good morning, everyone. It's a beautiful, beautiful Monday. I'd like to begin by saying, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge Him, and He will make your path straight. Good morning, my friends. It's another week ahead of managing this COVID crisis and making sure we're still productive even while we're on quarantine. Today we will be talking about how to avoid legal issues and legal problems. I will be wearing my lawyer hat today. Stay tuned. Good morning, Kuya Mel Chan. Thank you for joining me today. Thank you for always being here with us, and to everyone watching, the Tags team of Ozamis and everyone around the country watching this. Thank you very much for joining me on this beautiful, beautiful Monday. I have something significant for all of you because we want to avoid a lot of possible problems we could face if we're not careful. Legally, that is. And so today, I will gather my insights from the many years of legal practice and hopefully share with you some of the thoughts that might help you prevent problems as you face life. Good morning, Manoy Randy Campos from Phnom Penh. Please keep safe there always, although there are very few cases in Phnom Penh. Thank God, konti lang cases dyan sa Phnom Penh, Manoy Randy. So let's visit the news first before we talk about some of the insights that I want to share with you today. Let's begin with the news. All right, let's check the news. We have here 3 big dailies, and I'm happy because they contain different news focus points. I think, Trisha, our second camera just turned off. The second camera turned off, so I cannot play with my tricks today. Let's see if it could turn back on. Okay, let's check the news from the Philippine Daily Inquirer. Interesting. Gatchalian, according to Senator Gatchalian, this is what's in the news. According to Senator Gatchalian, it's possible that Meralco could also lose their franchise. It was mentioned here that ABS-CBN lost their franchise because they failed to comply with the government's regulation not to admit foreign owners. And according to Senator Gatchalian, if they find serious breach or serious violations on the part of Meralco, it could also cost them their franchise. It must be recalled that Meralco was used or was actually owned by the Lopezes for many years, but they have divested. Give up na nila yung significant shares nila dyan sa Meralco. But I believe they're still a big player in that industry. Ang ugat po nitong issue na ito with Meralco is yung fine na inimpose ng ERC. Merong fine ang ERC imposed upon Meralco for failing to explain to the people why their bills have increased. In fact, during the quarantine, and what those particular items in their bills really represent. So kung meron kang ganon na naghihirap na nga yung Pilipino at hindi mo mapaliwanag kung paano tumataas pa rin ang kanilang bill, at lalo na at pinagsabihan na sila na dapat magbigay in fact ng tulong sa ating mga kababayang nahihirapan during this time, nung nag-impose ang ERC ng fine, ang sabi ng Meralco, pag-iisipan daw muna nila. Kaya medyo nairita siguro itong si Senator Gatchalian na sabi niya, wag yun ang pag-isipan. Napakaliit niyang 15 million para sa inyo. In fact, the fine should be much higher. Pero sabi nga ng Meralco, pag-iisipan nila, pero nag-agree na naman daw sila doon sa installment plan. Pero kung ay aapela pa nila, pagkatapos nitong merong banta si Senator Gatchalian, baka mapag-isip-isip ang Meralco. Huwag nyo nang masyadong pag-isipan yan. Kung meron talagang pagkukulang on the side of Meralco, it is best for them to just pay up the fine. Pay up the fine so that you will not be in hot water, because meron naman talagang legitimate na complaint ang ating mga kababayan during this season. Talaga namang meron tayong hindi napaliwanag at nagkagulatan. In fact, nakakalungkot na naghihirap na nga pasanin pa ng ating mga kababayan ang kanilang Meralco bill na hindi nila maintindihan. Kung talagang ginamit naman, talagang kailangan bayaran yun. Less of course the help or the discount that you will offer to your customers. Ito yung interesting kasi sa Meralco. Monopolya kasi ang Meralco in terms of power distribution in Metro Manila and in huge parts of Luzon. If I'm not mistaken, dito sa may Pampanga area and even Clark area, many of the power distribution companies there are actually owned by Meralco. And even for Metro Manila alone, kung ganun kalaki yung iyong sinaservice na area at solo mo yung lugar na yon, you are the only distributor of power there, syempre medyo kampante ka. But with what happened to ABS-CBN, you have to of course realize that this is a franchise. This is not a right. You can be stripped of that franchise. Pwedeng tanggalin yan sa'yo. At pag natanggal yan sa'yo, yan, mamomblema ka. So that's the headline from the Philippine Daily Inquirer. Let's move on to the Manila Standard. What's in the Manila Standard, my friends? By the way, when I talk about the legal issues later, if you have questions, if you have legal concerns, please type them down. I will be accommodating today. Sasagutin ko po yung ilan sa mga katanungan kung meron po kayong katanungan. So if you have friends who might be facing some legal issues, I will not go in depth, but I will give you a direction. I will give you a few steps that you can take. If you have been following me, I like giving steps and 1, 2, 3s. So that's what we will try to do today as we talk about how to avoid legal problems. The banner story of the Manila Standard. What's the banner story? Solons back DFA's China plan. Locsin, however, junks another bid to bring PCA ruling to the United Nations body. Okay, what does this headline story tell us? The US made a move to blacklist the companies that are involved in the reclamation or in the creation of those artificial islands in the West Philippine Sea. The Philippines, of course, is happy with that because America is putting their economic influence there. So, in order to also benefit from that, the DFA secretary says we should also ban those companies that are involved there. This news article did not specifically state if those are doing businesses here and hence the contract should be canceled with them. But if these big companies also have projects, let's say with construction companies in the Philippines and other big projects here, that's the move coming from DFA, that if they continue to work for the Communist Party of China, helping the Communist Party violate international law through the creation of those illegal islands in the West Philippine Sea, dapat ma-cancel yung kanilang mga kontrata sa Pilipinas kung meron man at ma-blacklist din sila sa Pilipinas. Now, this news article also mentions how former Justices Carpio and Carpio Morales again made a move to elevate the issue of these islands or the claim of China or the win rather of the Philippines over China with the UNGA. Pero ang sabi ni Secretary Locsin, hindi na kailangan yan. A win is already a win. Meaning nasa upper hand na tayo. Hindi na natin kailangang bumaba doon. Kasi ang pag-iisip ni Secretary Locsin na kung ibalik mo yan doon sa UN body, it's as if you are going down. Nanalo ka na nga. So ang importante na lang gamitin yon para i-enforce in a diplomatic manner. So yun na yung kanilang desisyon under this administration to go for diplomacy rather than file a case with the United Nations. So yun po yung nagiging direksyon nitong administrasyon na ito. Si Morales, Justice Carpio and Justice Carpio Morales, however, disagree with that. Ang sabi nila that we're really not belittling that. win. We're just enforcing it. And that's the reason why they want to bring it to the UNGA, United Nations General Assembly, para ma-enforce yung ating panalo. Okay? So that's already there. That's on the record. So if this administration doesn't believe that that's the best way forward, we'll see what the next administration will do with that victory. You know what's interesting? Because not only are we trying to assert itong win natin in the West Philippine Sea, we, through Secretary Locsin, he's also talking about our claim over Sabah. If you remember, Malaysia continues to pay the Kiram family for Sabah. And if you know your history a little bit, and this is something very interesting, Sabah was actually given to the Sultan of Jolo for helping his cousin, the Sultan of Brunei, ward off a coup d'etat or ward off an insurrection rebellion in Brunei. So when his cousin, the Sultan of Jolo, asked for help, nagpadala naman ng tulong ang Sultan of Jolo para matulungan yung kanyang pinsan. At sa kanyang pagpapasalamat, in order to thank his cousin, he gave him the right over Sabah. That's why since many years, although that has been a legal matter between the Philippine government and Malaysia for many years, hindi pa talaga ma-settle yan. Yan po yung gustong gawin sana ni former President Marcos at nagka-problema lang yung plano nila to use force as well to reclaim Sabah. At yan nga daw yung nangyari yung Jabida Massacre. Siyempre maraming detalye yan at maraming debate over those incidents in our history, kaya magandang sundan itong geopolitics, politika between these states sa Southeast Asia and Asia. So that's your kwento from the Manila Standard. Sabi, it's here. It's actually the second top story. Drop Sabah? ? Don't even dream of it. That's how Secretary Locsin talks. Hindi daw niya idadrop yung Sabah because historically, we really have a claim over Sabah and we have a right over Sabah. Okay. Director Trisha, the camera again turned off. Let's turn it on as I go to the third one, which is the Philippine Star. President Duterte, after his self-imposed quarantine, actually imposed by the PSG, visits Jolo to check on them. So he went to Jolo to check on them, and he visited the site of the bombing, and he extended his condolences to all the victims. He will proceed to Manila after Jolo, and this news also talks about the bombing in Zamboanga, and Mayor Beng Climaco offers 3 million bounty for whoever can give leads to the perpetrators of that bombing incident. A news article also talks about the withdrawal coming from the AFP chief for withdrawing his recommendation to impose martial law over Jolo. He says that there might be a better plan other than martial law. So hindi kailangan mag-martial law. But they're running after an Indonesian bomb expert terrorist who's been terrorizing this area for so long. Kasi yan yung area ng Jolo, Tawi-Tawi. Mindanao, actually, tawid-tawid lang yung mga tao dyan. Wala namang nation-states concept before. So yung mga Indonesians, Malaysians, taga Sabah, taga Jolo, Tawi-Tawi, Zamboanga, tumatawid yan in other areas in the past. Pero so ngayon, kaya meron ka pa ring access from these people to Jolo. Madali sila makapasok because they speak Tausug. The Tausug speak Malay, bahasa Malayo. So, madaling pumasok-pasok. Tapos, yung itsura pa natin, magkapareho. Okay. So, that's, we wish President Duterte well. Also says there, digitize PhilHealth data to curb fraud. Alam nyo, ang digitalization or ang pag-digitize, maganda kung wala kang tinatago. Kung meron kang tinatago, mas makikita. Kaya kung meron kang mga ahensyang ayaw mag-digitize, ayaw gumamit ng teknolohiya, gustong mano-mano pa rin, posibleng may mga tinatago ang mga iyan. Those are the headlines, my friends, from those 3 big dailies today. Let's proceed to what's interesting. What's interesting? Ayan. Okay. Good morning, my friends. I'd like to say hi to everyone who have tuned in to our show today. We will be talking about how to avoid legal problems in the Philippines. I am observing this camera, and do you notice a certain lag? I notice a certain lag though, Trisha. Is there a certain lag? Good morning, dear cousin Chai. If there's a certain lag, I will switch to the other camera because we're noticing a lag. Okay, let's stay with the other camera. Let's stick with this camera for now because we notice a certain lag in the video. Okay, so ano po ang ating pag-uusapan today? How to avoid legal problems. How to avoid legal problems. Sulat natin yung title na yan kasi according to Lolo Nems, there are people who are looking for a title. How to avoid legal problems. Okay. So ito po yung aking magiging topic today. I was a lawyer for many years. So I will be drawing from my experience in order to help us avoid problems. Kasi pwede ka talagang mabuhay na wala kang legal problems. Hindi kagaya ng doktor na malamang kung buhay ka dito sa mundo, it's almost impossible for you to go through life without needing the help of a doctor. Sa iyong pagpapanganak, posibleng hindi doktor, baka sa iyong malapit ka ng pumanaw, kailangan mo pa rin ng doktor. So yung mga doktor, kailangan po talaga natin yan sila at some point in our life. So what is my goal today? My goal today, Ate Laurelyn Reynolds from Oklahoma, is to share with you how to avoid seeing a lawyer in your entire life. I'm not saying you should not help lawyers have a good employment because there will be people, good careers, there will be people who will be needing lawyers for contracts, for mergers, for other things. But I'm hoping, at least for my friends, that you would not need a lawyer because you have legal problems. I want you to avoid legal problems in your life. When I was starting my career, I realized that there are so many cases in court na dapat hindi na na-file. Mas magandang kung naayos nila yon, hindi na sila mamomoblema. So if you have friends who might benefit from this discussion, this is a good time for you to share our link to your Facebook page. Okay. Now, I was a lawyer for many years and I believe that there are cases, or a lot of the cases could have been avoided. And if they were not avoided and if they did happen, should not have been filed in court. So ano po yung mga steps na para maiwasan ninyo? So I want you to, if you have your pen and paper, by the way, I am an advocate for writing on pen and paper. Please write down on pen and paper because these things, you need to remember in your life. Okay, how to avoid legal problems. Number one. Palakpak po muna tayo para sa number one. Number one is this. Do not assume an obligation that is not yours. Yan yung unang-una. You're talking about obligations na hindi mo naman talaga obligasyon. Okay? So ito yung mga kaso na ma-avoid mo kung nag-iingat ka na number one, wag kang mag-garantor kung hindi mo naman talaga kaya at hindi ka naman talaga willing na i-garantor. Pag nag-garantor ka or nag-surety ka sa isang tao o kaibigan mo para sa isang utang or isang obligasyon, ito yung isipin mo. Ikaw ang sasalo niyan. You need to assume that this person will not act on his commitment or obligation. At kung sasablay, nangutang siya, ikaw ang garantor, magkakaproblema ka kasi ikaw ang garantor, ikaw ang nag-surety. So, ibig sabihin, ang unang-una, do not assume an obligation that is not yours and you're not really willing to assume. Yun yung unang-una. Well, kung kailangan ng tulong, tumulong ka in some form kung mababa yung tolerance mo for risk. Pero kung sa tingin mo, kailangan mo talagang tumulong at hindi naman ganun kataasan yung risk, then you will assume an obligation na willing. Pero kung hindi ka sure sa gusto mong gawin, wag mo na lang pasukin. Kasi kapag hindi yan nag-deliver yung tao based sa kanyang utang, based sa kanyang obligasyon, isipin mo, ikaw ang sasagot niyan. Good morning, Hiner Berinya. Good morning, Tita Mitzi, Tita Go, Lazaro. Good morning, Mami Sarah Evangelista Ratio Cruz. So that's the first thing. Pag merong pinapirmahan sa'yo, merong pinagaranti sa'yo, basahin mo ng maayos kasi kung ikaw ang mag-a-assume ng obligation, you need to think of the worst situation where that person who's primarily obliged to perform that deed or that act or pay back that loan doesn't do so. If he doesn't do so, are you willing and ready to assume that obligation? If you're not willing and ready to assume that obligation, you need to be honest to that person. Kung nadadala ka, nahihiya ka, na ganun, maulaw ta, nakakahiya naman, nasa sayo yon. Pero what I'm saying is, posibleng magkaproblema ka down the road kung yan ang iyong iniisip. Okay. Now, marami sa ating mga viewers ngayon, we are blessed to help. If you're blessed to help, if you're in a position to help, go out and help. But you need to ask yourself, am I willing to assume this obligation and this burden? Isipin mo sa'yo yon. Okay? So, yun yung unang-una. Ako, I'd rather give na lang immediately kung merong tulong. Ito lang talaga yung maitutulong ko. Rather than assume the entirety of the obligation. For example, merong utang, let's say 50,000. Umutang ng 50,000 or 100,000. Tapos, ikaw yung magiging garantor ng utang dahil merong problema. Kung kaya mo talagang i-assume yung problema na yung 100,000, you may of course help. That's as God touches your heart, as you are in a position to help. Kung sa tingin mo hindi mo kayang sagutin yung buong problema na yon, I would rather that I give cash to that person. Sabihin mo na lang na, pre, mukhang mahihirapan akong i-guarantee yan kasi kung magka-problema yan, baka akong sasalo. Pero to make your friend feel good about your intentions, what you can say is, pero as of now, I have 10,000. I want to give this to you. Huwag mo nang isipin, bigay ko na ito sa'yo, tulong ko na ito sa'yo. Now, is 10,000 equivalent to 100,000? No. 100,000 is of course 100,000. But 10,000, is it equivalent to your peace of mind? That's very little amount to pay for your peace of mind. Mas okay nang magbigay ka ng 10,000 na tulong at hindi ka mamomblema, wala ka masyadong iniisip, magdi-default ba siya? Hindi. Magbabayad ba siya? Hindi. Tatakbo ba siya o hindi? Mas okay na yung magbigay ka kasi alam ng kaibigan mo that you have the heart to help him rather than assume the entire thing na alam mo hindi mo kaya. So instead of having just one problem, the problem of your friend, na tinulungan mo naman at posibleng meron pang ibang makakatulong, isa lang yung problema. Kung hindi siya nagbayad at hindi ka rin makabayad, naging dalawa ang problema. Again, I mentioned earlier, if you have questions, please feel free to ask your questions because if you have questions, I can address them. And this is the Q&A portion of Mark Your Day, and I will answer them as we go along. All right, that's number one. Number two. In your life, it's possible that you will have to sign contracts. When you buy a house, when you take out a loan, when you enter a business, when you secure a franchise, posible kang pagbabayad posible kang pumirma ng kontrata. So the next thing that I want you to do is this. Understand contracts and your obligations there. So ibig sabihin, itong mga kontrata na ito, kailangan mong maintindihan in its entirety. Hindi pwedeng you just trust the person na okay na yan, sila na yung gumawa. Excited ka or you're acting out of desperation, pirma ka lang ng pirma. Ito I'm not talking about the obligation of others. This is your obligations. Yung una, we were talking about the obligations of others na inassume mo. Itong pangalawa are really your obligations. Either rent sa bahay, rent sa business space that you're using for your business, or a loan that you secured from a bank, or a business transaction, a partnership, an investment agreement, yung mga ganon. My suggestion is you understand and your contracts and specifically your obligations there. Ano ba talagang obligations ko dito? Okay. Meron kang dalawang bagay na kailangan isipin pagdating dun sa contract. Number one is your obligation. Ano yung mga obligasyon ko dito sa kontrata nito? Number two, yung iyong exit. Makakawala ba ako nito o hindi ako makakawala? So yung titingnan mo yun, yung obligations mo and your exit. And here's my practical tip to you, my friends. And this is where the role of lawyers will come in. It is my biggest suggestion to hire a lawyer at the beginning of any engagement, not when you need them to fight for you. Again, I'll say it. Hire a lawyer when you don't really need them to fight for you. Hire them to prevent any possible legal problems. It should be preventive lawyering, hindi siya problem-solving lawyering. So any contract, any agreement that you have to enter, I suggest that you consult a lawyer before you sign. Now, yung consultation fee ng mga abogado para sa mga maliliit na kontrata na yan, maliit lang din yon. Hindi yon malaki. Usually, posibleng mga 3 to 10,000 if you go to a regular lawyer. Maybe you can even get it for less. But I would suggest that you see a lawyer and you pay a lawyer. Okay? Now, sa usapin ng mga kontrata, huwag kang tatawag lang sa abogado. Huwag kang tatawag lang sa abogado sa phone. Huwag lang yung kukonsulta ka lang sa kaibigan. Although dito, lalo na libre naman at retired na naman ako. If it's really important, I suggest that you see him. Kung under normal circumstances, go visit him in his office. Now, because of the pandemic, I would suggest that you do a Zoom call or a video call with a lawyer. See a lawyer, catch a lawyer when he is in his lawyer attire, catch the lawyer when he is in his lawyer mode, not when he's playing golf, not when he's at home. Because a lawyer needs to walk you through the contract. Even if you think you understood, it's still better to consult someone who really can walk you through the contract. In case of doubt, any little doubt that you have of a particular part of a contract, consult a lawyer. Now, the second thing I want you to do is this. When you consult a lawyer, make sure you take down notes. Okay? Take down notes. When I used to do these contract explanations for a lawyer, I used to write everything down on a whiteboard. Mas maganda talaga sa legal practice na nagsusulat yung abogado sa whiteboard para siyang teacher, lalo na nag-explain ng kontrata kasi hindi tayo lahat expert sa kontrata. So sulat siya sa whiteboard, ikaw naman dapat mag-notes ka. Okay, notes. Pagkatapos mong mag-notes, una-una, 'di ba? Consult a lawyer, not to hire him to fight for you but to prevent problems. Number 2, ask him to explain the parts of the law of the contract and you pay him for that explanation. Number 3, and very important, after you write things down, your notes, you show that to the lawyer. Attorney, tama ba itong notes ko? Tama ba to, attorney? Okay. Pag tama yung notes mo, yun yung ipapakita mo sa abogado at sabi niya, yes, tama yan. Okay, attorney ha, salamat ha, thank you very much. Now you have your guide as you proceed with that contract. Okay? So napakahalaga po nito. Huwag pong padalos-dalos, huwag pong magtitipid sa pagkukonsulta. Now, kung meron kang legal aspect, no? Meron kang legal aspect, meron kang pangalawang aspeto dyan na napakahalaga. Ano po yung halaga? Yung legal aspect, for example, contract, shares, equity, ganon. Ang pangalawang aspeto na usually nagiging cause ng problema sa isang kontrata ay ganito. Nagiging cause ng away lagi ng tao ay yung usapan sa pera. So the financial aspect of whatever it is that you're trying to enter, I would suggest kung medyo komplikado yan, get an accountant to explain things to you. Okay? And then, pay an accountant. Pay that lawyer, pay an accountant. 2,000, 3,000 will be very small for your peace of mind. 2,000, 3,000 will be nothing to make sure you understand completely what you're entering and you know what the consequences are and you know what is expected of you. Malinaw? Are there questions so far? Again, if you have questions, my friends, you may type them down in the chat area. Okay? Good morning. Jay Baul from Clark. Good morning, Jay. And also, good morning to Napoleon. Greetings from the island, the best island in the world, Coron, Palawan. Good morning, Napoleon. Good morning. We agree, Coron is so beautiful. We hope to visit Coron again soon. Thank you very much for joining the discussion today. Okay? Yan po yung pangalawa. Okay? Pangalawa po yan. Lipat natin yan dito sa kabila. Okay. Number 3. Number 1, do not assume obligations of others that you're not willing to really assume. Number 2, you enter a contract, get a lawyer to explain things to you, ask him to write things down, take down notes, show it to the lawyer. If there are financial aspects to it, seek the help of an accountant so that the accountant can explain to you in detail ano ba talaga yung usapan dyan. Number 3, if you are to do life, hindi ka magkakaproblema as long as you never hurt people or things deliberately or out of recklessness. Ang alin? Papalabasin ko yun doon sa summary ko mamaya. Okay. So, yung ating number 3 ay ito. Never hurt people or things deliberately or out of recklessness. Now, sa mga parents, ito yung aking suggestion kasi ito yung basihan sa obligation. It can be based on law or based on contract or based on your recklessness, meron kang magkakaproblema ka. Based on law or contract, ang basis ng obligasyon ng tao sa Pilipinas, law, contract, or judgment. Kung merong judgment against you, syempre, obligasyon mong sundin yon. If you are there a law that you need to comply with, syempre, kung yun, susundin mo yon. And kung meron kang pinasok na contract. Okay. Ayan, nag-volunteer na kaagad. Oh. Alam nyo bang napakagaling nito ni Dave Rosima? Good morning, accountant here in case you kailangan ninyo. Are you sure you can offer this service, you big boss, you of a top-notch accountant? Dave Rosima is actually a top-notch finance and management accountant person. He's very young but he's very, very successful. He used to be the finance head of, I'm not sure if I can mention this, but I'll mention it anyway. This is public knowledge among your friends. He used to work with Jollibee, handled both Mindanao and Luzon and NCR. But he's now with, ano nga ba yung company mo, Dave? He's with the biggest shipping company in the world. What's the name of it? Maersk. So he's now with Maersk and he does I think he's the country finance or accounting head. I think. Or did I just promote you? So yes, si Dave has been helping us. Si Ramjay Francisco has been helping us. Si Junver Arcana has been helping us. And Ate Admarie Marcelo has been helping us. So we always consult friends. So if you need someone to call, if this guy is really available, if he's not joking, and I think he is because this guy can't even sleep sometimes because he's so busy, that's Dave Rosima for you. One of the country's top young management accountants. Okay? So, going back, never hurt people or things deliberately. So, control your emotions, control your anger. It's not worth it. It's really not worth it. Huwag magpapadala sa iyong galit. Huwag magpapadala sa iyong emosyon. But what is critical here in what I posted is this. I want you to remind the kids as early as soon as they understand that if they are reckless, if they are not careful, they can get into problems. I always emphasize this to my kids. It's not enough to say sorry when you were already reckless and you already created problems, when you already hurt people or things. That's why one of our discipline basis, one of the basis for disciplining them with a palo sa puwet, with a rod, is when they deliberately hurt people or things or they are habitually reckless. Yun. Pag habitually reckless, talagang hindi nag-iingat consistently, nakikita mong hindi talaga nag-iingat consistently, then, mapapalo talaga. Bakit po papaluin? Diba? Sabi, wag mong papaluin ang bata kung aksidente naman. Okay? That's a good point. Yes, you don't discipline a kid because it's an accident. Kung nalaglag, kung napatid, kung whatever, it was an accident. Childhood irresponsibility. It's different when it is recklessness. It's different when it's habitual recklessness. Ibig sabihin, hindi talaga siya nag-iisip. Hindi niya talaga iniingatan. Yun ang dapat niyo siyang turuan. Bakit? Because when you're a grown-up, you're driving your car, you bump into something because you were distracted. Can you just say sorry? You already killed a person. You already destroyed things. You can't just say sorry. You will have legal problems. You will go to jail. I explained that very well. So it starts with caring for small things, especially when they're taking care of something important. They need to observe yung tinatawag na minimum standard of care. Meron kang minimum standard of care. For example, simple things like a microphone, the minimum standard of care is not very high. Mababa lang yung minimum standard of care. But if, for example, you're taking care of a knife, you need to exercise utmost care. When you're driving a car, when you're driving a bike, yan yung tinatawag na you need to observe utmost care. Kung medyo mas critical, utmost care. So dapat built-in sa utak ng tao yon sa ating lahat na kapag critical, you need to observe a higher standard of care. If you don't observe a higher standard of care for that particular activity, meaning you were reckless. At kung merong recklessness, magiging basehan yon ng iyong obligasyon. That's why, namamalo ba ako kung reckless? Kung aksidente talaga, yes. Pero kung paulit-ulit na at hindi talaga siya nag-iingat, I would be remiss as a parent if I don't teach him and implant in him the need to be careful. Because if he is not careful, he will encounter legal problems in the future because of his lack of care. Okay? It's not just deliberate, it's also recklessness. Malinaw? Are there questions there? Walang tanong. Tahimik kayo ngayon ah. Palakpakan nyo naman yung speaker nyo. Baka ayaw nyo naman akong Did you like that? So turuan nyo ha. Dave Rosima, when you become a parent, turuan ng mga bata. Hindi lang yung nanakit. Pati yung kanabang sa Bisaya, ayog yun, pagtanga-tanga. Kanabang danghag. Ug nagdinanghag sa Bisaya. Kung hindi nag-iingat, that can be a cause of legal problems. Okay? That's point number 3. That's point number 3. Lipat natin itong ating clock sa taas. Kasi ito, ililipat ko ito dito sa baba. Tapos, punta tayo sa point number 4. Number 4. If you want to avoid problems, legal problems, follow government regulations. Sabi nito ng marami, ni Kuya Apollo Marcelo, Ate Anne-Marie Marcelo, si Kuya Dave Rosima, and some decent, good accountant would tell you, you want to avoid problems with BIR, the best defense is to do what is right. Tama, Kuya Dave? To do what is right. As long as everything is in order, kung hindi po yan in order, magkakaproblema tayo. Susundin po ang mga reglamentos ng gobyerno, both local and national. If we take shortcuts, if we don't follow regulations, there's a possibility for us to suffer and face some legal problems. Now, ang ganda ng nasa likod, smile, God is good all the time. Oh, thank you, Kuya NR. Alam nyo ang gumawa nito? Oh, by the way, I did not tell you the story of this, right? So this one, I'll tell you first the painting. The painting is a gift from a client of mine. It's an Ivan Acuna painting. The client was related to Ivan Acuna. So she gifted me with that beautiful Ivan Acuna painting. For that one, Smile, God is good all the time. It's actually a wood burning piece. They burned the wood sa sides, and the guys who made that are actually from jail. So that's a product of mga inmates. I think this was given to me by the Christian Missionary Alliance, Kamakop, when I spoke to them. So tama, sabi ni Kuya Dave Rosima, follow government, especially the BIR. Follow the government, especially the BIR. Sundin lang po talaga ang ating mga reglamentos, yung ating mga regulations. The best defense is to do things right and according to all the regulations. Kahit na masakit at nakakatempt na hindi magbayad ng tama, hindi magrehistro, hindi magbigay ng resibo, there could be problems down the road if we make the habit of not complying with the minimum regulations of government. Kasi ganito, I'll give you an example. Kung hindi ka sanay magbayad sa BIR nang maliit ka pa, mas lalo kang hindi magbabayad pag marami ka nakita. It's a habit. It's a heart. It's the willing heart to comply with what is expected of you or required of you by these regulations. You made money out of your business. If you have to pay a tax of 2,000, and if you're willing and ready, even if you just earned 10,000, you pay 2,000 out of the 10,000 that you earn. malaking bawas yung 2,000 sa 10,000 kasi maliit lang yung 10,000. Paano kung kumita ka na ng 10 million? Kailangan mo magbayad ng 2-3 million. Kung hindi ka sanay magbayad ng 2,000, malamang hindi ka magbabayad ng 2-3 million. That's why it's important for us to practice the habit of complying with regulations while we're still small. Kasi kung malaki ka na, mas mahirap na yung ganon kasi malaki na yung involved. Iisipin mo na naku, ang laki ng kawalan if I pay this. That's number 4. Okay? Urong natin ng konti. Number 5. Last but not the least. Number 5. Always act out of respect, honesty, and good faith. Sa bar exams, meron kang sa civil law exam ng bar. Yung civil law, yan yung pinakamarami, malawak yung scope ng civil law. Kasi sa civil law, nandyan yung succession, family, nandyan yung, basta ang daming sakop ng civil law. So sa civil law, meron kang default article na yun yung kung wala ka nang maisasagot, ito yung isasagot mo sa bar exam. Ito yung kukunin mong provision ng batas at yun yung gagamitin mo to answer the question. And what is this provision of law? Article 19. That's why in our law school, we were really required to memorize this word for word. We needed to recite it verbatim because the professors knew that in case you don't have anything to say during the bar exam, you can type this down. It says there, every person in the exercise of his rights and in the performance of his duties should act with justice, give everyone their due, and observe honesty and good faith. That's Article 19 of the Civil Code of the Philippines. Every person in the exercise of your right, it is your right, or in the performance of your duty, you should act with justice. You should give everyone their due respect, due courtesy, and always observe honesty and good faith. If you follow this principle, you're acting out of respect and courtesy towards people around you. You're always honest. You're not leading people on. And finally, you're acting out of good faith. Maganda yung intention mo. That's the best defense for you. That's number 5. Okay, we open the floor to a few questions. And let's, okay. Sige. I will open the floor to a few questions, Kuya Jay. I will just arrange my slides, okay? So that you guys can see it. So number 1, do not assume an obligation. Number 2, okay? Number 3, number 4, and number 5, okay? So you see that? It's a bit backlit though. Sorry for that, but that's how it is today. Okay. And then finally, the title up there. Okay, there. Now, okay. So, let's answer a few questions. Kuya J. Oh, Ivan Acuña was your batchmate in high school. That's interesting. There na Kuya Melchan. I already posted it. Okay. Question from Kuya J. I am planning to buy a lot at the back of our house. Kaso rights lang, walang title. What would you advise? Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Pag tinatawag mong walang title, meron kang dalawang klaseng walang title. Okay? Isipin mo ito, dalawang walang title, Kuya J. Yung unang walang title, it's a disposable public land, meaning land siya ng gobyerno. Kasi before any private rights owning separate lands, all lands belong to the Republic of the Philippines. Ganun naman yon. Tapos, dinidispose lang for private ownership yung portions. Okay? Now, una yan, it could be a disposable public land, meaning pag-aari siya ng gobyerno at wala pang umangkin sa kanya, wala pang may titulo sa kanya. That's one. Number 2, wala siyang titulo dahil hindi siya pwedeng tituluhan. Okay? Ano yung mga hindi pwedeng tituluhan? Easement sa mga dagat, easement sa mga river, mga military reservation, school reservation, yung mga indigenous peoples reservation, yung mga ganong klase or forest land or wetland. mahirap pong bumili ng hindi titulado. So, ang suggestion ko sa iyo, Tito J, is this. My suggestion is you go to the assessor's office at itanong mo yung status nitong lupa na ito. Bakit siya walang titulo? Wala ba siyang titulo dahil wala lang nagpatitulo sa kanya? Or wala siyang titulo dahil hindi siya pwedeng tituluhan? Yun yung tanong. So, ang suggestion ko, Kuya Jay, since you're still very young father, young husband, is to invest on property instead na wala kang problema down the road. Kasi kung meron kang ganyang investments ngayon, posibleng benepisyo yan ngayon, pero lumalago ang Pilipinas, Kuya Jay. Pausad ang Pilipinas. So, inaayos yung mga systems. Tingnan mo nangyari sa Boracay. Tingnan mo mangyayari sa Palawan. They're trying to fix things. They're trying to digitize things. So, pag ganyan, more and more, makikita yung mga problema na ganyan. So, kung hindi ka sure, I would not recommend that you part with your precious savings to buy property like that. Just go for a property na safe ka. Okay? Are there other questions? I hope I answered your question satisfactorily, Kuya J. Ryan Baul. Okay? Ano pa ang ating mga katanungan? Kung wala na po tayong katanungan, punta na po tayo sa What's Trending. Ano po ang nag-trending over the past 2 days? Pumanaw po yung actor na gumanap ng role na Black Panther in Hollywood. He was very, very young. He was just 43 years old, and apparently he filmed the shows while he was fighting cancer, while he was trying to survive cancer. That's why, yes, Wakanda forever, Kuya Mel Chan, I forgot his name. Black Panther actor, let's so that we can properly give. His name is Chadwick Boseman. Chadwick Boseman is a respected actor. So his name is Chadwick Boseman. So we give honor to this man who was very good, not just as an actor, but also as a representative of the Black community, and he did a lot of good. Pero these are the 3 things that I want to say. He is young, but he lived a great life. So still, I believe we don't know if we're going to run a marathon or a sprint in this life. So as long as we live a full life, no matter how short, that would still be okay. Number 2, he fought cancer at a very early age, but he did not let it bring him down. He was still very productive even when he was diagnosed, according to Kuya Mel, in 2016. 2016, he fought it 4 years, and in those 4 years, he made people happy, and he performed in great movies and made people really happy with the Black Panther Wakanda Forever. So whatever it is, we don't know when it's gonna happen to us. We don't know if we get an ailment like that, and I hope not. But if in case we face some physical ailments down the road, I pray that it will not bring us down, because that's just the fact of nature. We are all going to fade. We're all going to get old. We're going to get sick, and we will eventually all pass away. So we face that reality with the objective view that that's how it is. There's a beginning, there's an end, and we will make the most out of the time given to us here on earth. And here's number 3. As long as you live your life in the service of others and to really make the communities that you're part of, the family that you're with, the best because you're there, people will honor you even after you pass. That's why we have a trending news of his death. not everyone goes trending. But because of his life and the way he lived his life, he was trending. So I hope he is welcomed by the pearly gates of heaven. Chadwick Boseman. May rest in peace. Another thing. Yes, it's the 59th founding anniversary of my beloved Mindanao State University. That is going to be tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken. September 1 is the official date. So I will be talking about that foundation anniversary, Ma'am Cecilia, on Wednesday when I am with my dearest Trisha. So that's our news for today. And those are the interesting items that I find interesting. I hope you found them interesting as well, on how to avoid problems in your life legally. Those are the things. I'll keep them flashed as I bid you goodbye. So I'd like to invite you, my friends, to share this material and also share the videos coming from the YouTube channel. And if I may also ask you to let your friends know that Team Arete, of which I am the lead consultant, offers trainings and keynote speeches, planning sessions, and learning events over the internet. We use this facility and we have all the equipment in order to do that. So I would like to ask you to let your friends know from the various companies that we offer that service. And if you could help share the information to them and lead them to our email account. And I'll type down our email account: learn@teamarete.org. So for anyone who wishes to avail of the services of Team Arete, please use this email. We would be happy to work with LGUs, government organizations, NGOs, even cooperatives, and of course, corporate organizations. If they need, for example, leadership, how to be effective working from home, avoiding conflict in the workplace, managerial training, supervisory training, we have all of those and many, many more. So thanks very much for joining me today. Please help us spread the word about Team Arete and what we do, and spread the word about how to avoid legal problems in your life. So this is your Mark Your Day episode, August 31. I'll see you all again on Wednesday. We have something very special for you on Wednesday. We will be launching something very, very special. So if there's a special episode among all special episodes, that will be on Wednesday with Trisha Feliciano Castrodes. Thanks very much, everyone. God bless. See you on Wednesday. Keep safe. Have a great week ahead.